Kenton, I
Russell,
see a room full of people showing up here on
I
my
see him.
screen. So
I see him filtering in too, bud.
I think we're live. I'm looking around. I see Sandra. How you doing, Sandra? See Chris. I was just on a trip with Chris up to or down to Florida Everglades. That was a pretty awesome trip.
Yeah,
Dave
yeah.
Dave is with us today. Hope you're doing well, Dave, all the way from the Carolinas. And let's see who else do I recognize that I've had. Okay, if you've done landscapes, a landscape image review, Kenton, there's one guy that everybody it amazes me the quality of photographers we get in these image reviews. But on the landscape stuff, there's one guy that consistently gives a lot of good pictures, and he puts David B. George on his pictures. You know what I'm talking about? I always call him David by George.
I don't. It's been a long time since I've been on a webinar. Actually, it's great to be back.
Well, I am in. I got to tell the story. I hope David doesn't mind, but I'm in Yellowstone back in February. We're at the Old Faithful Lodge. I'm walking out of the Geyser Grill where we're going to have lunch, or we just had lunch, or maybe we're about to have it. I was just checking, make sure they're open. I'm walking out. I hear this guy say, "Russell," turn around, David George. Recognize him from the webinars. We got to meet and talk there for a little bit. He was up there on a different trip taking pictures, so it was good to meet him. Got some other names on here: Brad and Mark and Molly and Linda and got a whole host of people. So I think we've got a full room here.
I think so. And I have to give a shout out too to Bruce Allison. How's it going, man? It's been a while since we were up in Katmai and photographing bears together in the rain. Good to have you.
We'll be back there before we know it. In fact, I got an email about Katmai yesterday on the July trip, and I can't believe we're already talking about that stuff.
No kidding. It's going to be here like before we know it. It'll be September, and it'll be.
It's always fun though, and it's always, and I say this on every trip I do. It's always the guests that make it so much fun. I mean, for me, going to remarkable places is one thing, but like us, we've been to Katmai a lot, so it's, even though it's still pretty cool to go to Katmai, it's still Katmai, but when you get to take a lot of really neat people and experience outdoors with like-minded people and experience photography with like-minded people, that's really what makes these trips really remarkable. And so whenever I give shout outs to people, I'm just happy to see some of my former guests on these webinars, and happy to talk photography with everybody else, and always happy to see you, Kenton.
Yeah, happy to see you too, Russell. It's been a while. I've like I said, I haven't been on a webinar in a while. I just got back from a couple of weeks out in Death Valley. Matt Meisenheimer and myself ran a trip out there together, and then I stayed on for a second edition of the trip. Had a great time, dodged a haboob. Do you know what a haboob is?
I do. When I used to live in Northwest Texas, we would call them dust storms, but we would have those haboobs out there.
Yeah, massive.
They just appear out of nowhere. Yeah. Massive wall of, I saw one time, and it was the first time I ever saw one, and it was the best one I ever saw, and I wasn't ready. I just heard it outside my window where I used to live, heard it sound like someone pecking on the window, and I went outside and I saw this big dirt cloud that's probably 1,000 feet high, just about to envelop the town. And so I missed that big wall, and so I never got photographs of that, but the pictures I've seen of them, they're pretty remarkable.
Yeah. Hey, just a quick question came in, and I think we should just address it for everyone who might be new in here or just don't remember. The chat function that we have is disabled on purpose. Please feel free to send questions our way via the Q&A tab, and we'll be able to address those questions either during the presentation, or we'll do our best to get to them at the end if we don't get to them throughout. But yeah.
Yeah, one thing I always encourage everyone to do is as we go through this presentation, or as we go through this image review, just if you have any questions or comments along the way, just feel free to put them in there on the Q&A part, like Kenton said, and we'll address them as we go along. And I haven't looked at these pictures yet, just so you know the ground rules. So everybody knows the ground rules. I downloaded these pictures probably about, it's 12:04 now, about 45 minutes ago. I downloaded them. and then stuck them right in the Lightroom. The picture I'm looking at right there is the only picture I've seen, and that's the elk. And so we'll start with that one in a minute. And here's what I want to tell everybody. You know, I remind people of this all the time. What I talk about on these pictures, it's just my opinion. Sometimes I'm kind of voicing my opinion in a perfect world, but we all know with wildlife and nature photography, finding a perfect world is sometimes hard to achieve. And so there'll be some times when I may mention something that may sound ludicrous, but I'll try to preface my words with saying, you know, in a perfect world, this is what it would look better. And I just kind of talk through those things as more of a learning exercise and not necessarily a critique of the photo, because for me, it helps me to remind myself of really what I'm looking for before I push the shutter button. You know, we talk a lot about on these backcountry journeys trips, Kenton, about shooting intentionally. And so even with wildlife, I just try to shoot intentionally, try to think about all those things like the background or the angle of the wings on a bird and all those different aspects that really make a great picture great. And you know, and I may mention some of those, not necessarily a direct critique at any of these pictures, but just I mention it as sort of a best case scenario and something to be thinking about in the future. Because as I've said many times before, if you've been on a trip with me before, I don't take myself too seriously when it comes to photography. It's not like I'm curing cancer or I'm solving world hunger by pushing a button on a camera. It's also supposed to be about fun. It's all supposed to be about learning. And so that's the spirit in which I know I give my comments, and I think I speak the same for you, Kenton.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's like few ways that really rival just looking at images and thinking at whether you like them or you don't like them, and just spending some time and thinking about why do you like something or why don't you like something. And again, shooting with intention is one of my favorite things to talk about while out on a trip. But that just boils down to everything that you're doing out there is for a reason. And if it's for a reason, then you're taking that step. You know, you mentioned backgrounds and you know, composition of these animals. If you can go out there, especially with something like bears, and just spray and pray and see what you come up with. But if you're taking each shot for a real good reason, I think you're making that step. And you know, taking a look at these images today and spending some time here is just an awesome way to get better. And you know, myself included, for sure.
Yep. And if you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started. Now, I don't know who took any of these pictures. When I downloaded them, I put them in random order. So if you have multiple pictures in this set and they don't show up one right after another, doesn't necessarily mean that we left them out. They're just sorted by random order, and we get to them when we get to them. So with that said, let's take a look at this picture first on the elk. You know, as a general rule, Kenton, I always like to say I like photographing animals at eye level, but in this case, this sort of works. I really like this angle. I like the quartering angle of the elk towards the camera, and then I like how its head looks across the body. But then I think the downward angle looks kind of nice. I'm sort of curious. I'm looking at the, I don't think you can see it on your end, but I'm looking at the metadata. This was shot at 85 millimeters. Wow. So whoever shot this picture of this elk was pretty close. From a compositional standpoint, I think it looks nice. I mean, I don't have really, the depth of field is appropriate for this. The exposure is dead on. I don't really have a whole lot of other critiques I can give it, other than it's just I like the unusual angle. If I'm being real picky, and you'll hear me say that a lot too, if this is your first time on these webinars, if I'm being really, really picky, sometimes I'll say in a perfect world, like on this one, I might want if you can see that, just a little bit of the left cropped out just a hair, but that's me being picky. That's my only thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's just not a ton of distractions, or the edge control is pretty solid. There really isn't anything to take away from the elk, and giving him that breathing, or him or her that breathing room there to look across the image is definitely good.
Oh, this looks like a cat and bear.
Oh yeah, I've seen that one. Do you know that one's name, Russell?
You know, I am I'm really good with people's names, but I'm pretty terrible with bears' names. I just don't
Yeah.
take the time to study the names of them. So I don't know.
Well, the Rangers would tell you that bears don't have names anyways. So
And that's kind of the point. That's the point I take on them is they just don't have names. On this picture, I've already made a couple of changes on it as we talked about this. I think for one, if we look at the let me go back and look at the original here. Oh, I think for one, if anything, I'd change on this picture. It's really two things actually. Is one just a little bit of a tighter crop because if you notice, if we think about the rule of thirds, and let me see if I can overlay this on the grid. Can you see the grid on your end, Kenton?
Can.
If you can see it there, if we're talking about just the practical application of rule of thirds, the bear's eyes are kind of center punched right in the middle of the frame. And so I think it works better if we crop some of the left side off or the right side off of the picture behind the bear. And then we can kind of force the perspective of the eye now instead of it being right in the middle of the frame. You're more kind of in that classic thirds look. And then plus, and this is a subtle thing, if we look at the background, we've got this hard line of the where the water meets the land. I just think that works better when you kind of push it up into that part of the picture as well. And so once we just kind of make that slight adjustment, I think compositionally it makes the picture stronger. The other thing, and I don't think it's my screen, but the other thing, I think it's a little bit overexposed. So I think if you just dial down the exposure, just maybe that's a third of a stop. I think it makes a lot of difference there.
Yeah, I agree. Also, you kind of got that one little shrub of grass out of there that kind of was pulling my eye off to the right a little bit. So simplify that
Oh
scene a
yeah,
little bit. Yeah.
that's what you're saying. See, I just think that a lot of times when you're shooting pictures of wildlife, it's just subtle. It's just the subtleties that make all the difference. That didn't change the image drastically, but it's just a little subtle change. I think makes the composition just a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
All right, this looks like a great gray owl. Now, here's the thing that I was talking about earlier. In a perfect world, that I'll just state the obvious, that limb isn't there, but you can't tell the great gray where to pose. Sometimes, and I'm careful about saying this too, because this isn't a critique. And I was talking about this on my Everglades trip. Sometimes when you see an animal like this, and I don't know the situation here, it helps immensely if you've got time. Go ahead and get your shots here, but move to the right or left, just 2 or 3 steps. And a lot of times it'll change that foreground enough and change the background enough where it puts that stick where it's just not even close to the eye. So that's just a thought there. But compositionally, I like this picture, and it's beautiful bird. I think everybody's a sucker for owls, but I think just that one thing, and that's one of the things to think about in the future. Again, in a perfect world, the stick's not there, but we can't control where the owl's going to land. But one thing to think about is, can I move to the left or move to the right to improve my foreground and improve my background?
Yeah, I had that exact situation come up not that long ago. I was up in Blaine, Washington. You know where that is, Russell?
I do not.
It's the border town, right at the Canadian border on the tip. And you can see the border from this little bay area. And there was a bald eagle that was probably just starting to get his maturity. And I had this exact thing happen. And, I shot it. I got my shot with the trees kind of there, but not too bad. And then just worked it. And he just allowed me to. I don't know if you'd get that from this great gray, maybe. But he did allow me to move about, and I was able to do that. This is a cool shot. I would love to have a great gray.
Oh, I would too. And that's the thing. You don't, and that's sort of what I was getting at the first time I comment. So a lot of times I'll comment on things that in a perfect world, but that's one of the things is you become intentional. Instead of just taking a quick snapshot, you start thinking about, well, if I move to the right a little bit, and can I improve the background, improve the foreground, and just all those things to think about.
Is that what you'd call your yearbook photo?
That's the yearbook photo.
That's the yearbook photo.
Yep.
It's awesome. I'd love to have it.
These look to be some whooping cranes. I don't know where that is. They look like they're on the snow here. The hang on, I'm going to dig into the metadata just a little bit on this one. I mean, I think on this picture from a from an just an unusual bird standpoint, it's it definitely it's a rare. It's I mean we have them in Texas. I've just never seen them. They're that rare. I think that's a whooping crane. That's what it looks like to me. If any whoever is on, if this is your picture, just feel free to chime in about where this was taken. I'm looking at this shot here. They shot this picture. It looks like, oh, it's a Japanese red crown. I see it now in the file name. Okay, so I've never seen one of these before. I'm looking at the picture here. I'm if this metadata is right, I'm a little perplexed. It looks like on the dimensions, and that's my first impression I got when I looked at the picture. It looks like it's been cropped in quite a bit because it's losing a little bit of sharpness. But it was shot at f16, but it was shot at 210 millimeters with a 150 to 600 millimeter lens. I've got two suggestions for getting closer. Because one, I'm not a huge fan of cropping images just because you can do it in the end. I think the best way to crop, there's two best ways to crop if you can with wildlife. One is use your feet and just try to get as close as you can to them. Number two is to use the lens you have. And so they still had 400 millimeters of focal length that they could have used to zoom in on the animal a little better as opposed to just resorting to cropping to it. And that's my only comment. I mean, these are, we could go into the part about you shot this at f16. I think I'd like to have a little shallower depth of field. So just maybe these front cranes are in focus and not the back cranes. But, oops, that gummit. But not understanding the situation they were in. And maybe this is the best they could do. But I think overall, a little bit lower, to sum it up, a little bit wider open aperture, f5.6, f6.3, whatever that lens will do, not f16 like this was shot, and go and take advantage of the zoom feature you have and just zoom in as close as you can to them. Kenton?
I agree.
Wishing you a very berry day.
Oh,
that's nice.
That's cute. That's like a good Hallmark card there.
It is. Makes me feel better looking at it. I mean, this picture here, I think to me, it checks all the boxes, of what, if I was going through these and this was my pictures, this would be a keeper. You've got action going on. Kenton alluded to earlier, if you've never heard me talk about it, I always think there's 3 shots you take of every animal if you can. One's a yearbook shot, and the yearbook shot was like that one. Just looks like you'd be in a yearbook showing you this is what the animal looks like. The second one is a habitat shot where it's just a little bit wider that shows the habitat it lives in. And the third shot I try to take of every animal I see is some kind of action shot, whether it's flying or, in this case, eating these little berries off the tree. I just think this is a nice shot. So nice job on these flickers. Kenton, do we?
Yeah.
Did you have anything else on that one?
No, I love it. I love the depth of field. I love the way. Are you on that bird still? Or
no, I went back. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I love the behavior shot. It's great. Is that a woodpecker of some sort?
I don't know. It's a flicker of some sort, is what it looks like to me. Yeah.
There's nothing to really say other than it's a really nice shot. I mean, it's good rule of thirds. It's good. It's sharp. I love the depth of field, and I love the behavior.
No, this is my CCAP says it's a red-bellied woodpecker.
Red-bellied woodpecker.
That's what it shows to be. Okay. It's hard to know all the birds in the world. So
red-bellied woodpecker, Sandra says.
Okay, that's what it was. Hey, here's a tip for you. So you've seen a lot of these apps before, but I use this app called Seek. Can you see it there? This is kind of off the subject, but it allows you to ID animals in the field, but you can also show it to your screen, whether it's the back of your camera or your computer screen, and it doesn't know it's not seeing it in the field, and it'll ID animals that way. So that's how I got the idea of that red-bellied woodpecker right there. So these buffalo, man, these are awesome. I really like this shot. Normally I might say that this grass is kind of distracting, but I really like this. I really like the composition on this picture here. This color's great, light's great on it. I really like the soft light, and so
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm usually averse to cropping kind of square, but I think this crop is a nice one on this one. I'd like to see what the original looks like, but I think overall this one's a nice job.
Yeah, I agree. It's really just it's very intimate,
It
and
is, yeah.
the composition allows it to be, because obviously the animals are in what appears to be an intimate moment, but the shot allows it to be what it is. And
Sure.
that makes sense. It just looks good.
Yep.
Your little distraction, you know exactly what you're looking at.
And I'm going to double down on something I said earlier. Then I see we got a couple of questions coming in. Something I said. I want to double down on this point earlier. The reason why I'm not a big fan of cropping is you essentially pay, like this Canon R5 I've got sitting next to me. I paid $3,600 for essentially the sensor. And so it feels like I'm shortchanging myself if I crop any of that sensor off. So that's why I'm always a fan of getting as close as I can physically, and then getting as close as I can optically, and then using the third part, cropping, as the last resort. And so that's why, and I'm a little bit old school in that regard. I know I'm probably in the minority when I say something like that, but I also like the 4/3 image ratio, because that's just what I'm used to seeing all these years. And so, and I know a lot of the Instagram and stuff like that is going towards a square crop format. I know they do that, but it's like I said, that's my old man rant of the day.
Well, I mean, look at that beard. You are old school, sir. Hey, we have a question that we could address right now. That app
Okay.
that you talked about, was it called Seek?
Seek, yeah, SEEK.
Right on.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, and this is an unpaid testimonial, so it's not like I'm get sponsored by Seek or anything, but that thing, when I'm in the field, because again, I mean, I know a lot of birds, but I don't know every one of them, and some of them, if they look like a bird that I have around my house, like I said, a flicker earlier, I just resorted to that, because if we have red-bellied woodpeckers around here, I don't see them that often, and so I just resorted to that. And so when I'm in the field, if I take a picture of a bird, I'm not 100% certain what it is, I'll just use that Seek app, show it to the back of my camera, and I would say 95% of the time, because it geolocates you based on where your location, based on where you're at, and the animal it thinks it is. It kind of crowdsources, and it'll give you the best answer right away. And even when I get back home, if I'm going through pictures I took and didn't make good notes, I can show it to my computer screen, and like I did on that pictures of Sandra's, and be able to identify the shot right away.
Yeah, that's super helpful. There's a couple of places we had to, down in Everglades, where you're at, quite a bit in the wintertime, and
Yeah,
Costa Rica, Brazil, where there's so much diversity. You got
there is.
hundreds and hundreds of species flying at you at the same exact time.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with them all. And
Yeah.
too, there's also the thing about when you go to one location, and like I'm in Yellowstone for a week or so, and I'm just kind of in tune there, and then it's been a month since I've been to the Everglades. I tend to sleep in between times, so sometimes I forget some of the less common species that we see. I just lose the names of them. This male lion is a nice one too. The thing I'd like to see, kind of in the same vein as the last picture here, is to me, the crop is a little bit, the grass in front of it doesn't bother me at all. The light on this thing is perfect. I'd like to see, I know you crop the image, but I'd like to see a little more space underneath the chin there. Is kind of my only thing, and maybe a little less space above there, if you didn't crop that out of the original picture. I just kind of like to see what that looks like, but that's my only thing there.
Yeah, that was the first thing that came to mind there, and the only thing I can really think of there. It's really nice.
That is
Ooh.
nice. I don't typically think of the world in black and white, but in instances like this definitely works. I think this is God, just a beautiful set of zebras. I'm hoping this is one of the species we get to check off the list this summer when we go to Africa. Just Again, just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful picture. I don't really have any critiques at all to say about this one.
Oh, it's nice of them to pose like that for you.
Yep. It is.
Wow.
Golly.
Wow. That's Joy. Do you have that one printed and on your wall?
Yeah, this one's nice.
I love the framing. I can't even believe it. That blows my mind when I look at shots of the mountain gorillas. Is just how they will give you a pose. You talked about the yearbook photo, but this is like, what was that old company called back in like the 90s?
Olin Mills?
Olin Mills, yeah, but for the kids, where they dress glamour shots.
Yeah.
This is like a glamour shots, and this one just posed. I mean, okay, Joy does have that one printed. I would too.
You know what this reminds me of? And Joy, I'm not making fun of the picture at all. It's a beautiful shot, but
it is.
Do you ever see Napoleon Dynamite when Uncle Rico was making them pose like that?
Yeah.
So it reminds me of.
There's so much humanity in the eyes and the look. Unbelievable. I really love the framing, and yeah.
Yep, it's nice. John says, when using the rule of thirds, do you target the eyes, face, or head on the crosshairs? I usually kind of let the overall scene dictate it, but typically I go for the eyes because that's where you look at first on the animal.
Oh, man.
I used to find pictures of monkeys when my kids were little and tell them that was their baby picture. So if my kids were here, I'd tell them, hey, look, I found a baby picture of you.
Wow.
This little baby gorilla.
It's so sweet.
It is.
Tack sharp right in the eyes. I really, really like it.
That looks like it was shot with a softbox over the top of it. Beautiful picture. Nice job, Joy.
Absolutely. Nice work, Joy. Another nice one.
It is. On this one here, I'm going to look real quick. 850 millimeter is what it was shot at. So, yeah, that's what I was thinking. ISO 6400. My only thing here is it's two things. One, and this is an easy fix. The little flowers here at the bottom left are a little bit distracting. I think I would just use the clone tool and just spot those out of there. Number two, I was looking at your metadata, and this was shot at 1/1250th of a second at ISO 6400. When I look at this picture, I can tell it's got a little bit of noise in it. I think you could have shot this at, say, 3200 ISO or even 1600 ISO and still get enough shutter speed, because you're only talking like probably 2 full stops. So I think you could still get plenty of shutter speed to be able to freeze this. It would make it a little bit harder, granted, but I still think you get on shutter speed to freeze this. But with that said, colors are beautiful, background's beautiful. I think these shots like this are remarkably harder than what a lot of people think they are when you see these pictures.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's kind of the classic yearbook shot like I talked about. I really like how tightly framed this shot is. It doesn't bother me that the toes are kind of cut off a little bit there. I know some people may pick on that. It doesn't bother me that it's a little crowded. I think the main thing is when we look at this, answers the question before, if we overlay that rule of thirds grid, a little bit off the rule of thirds, but I think it works in this case because you're really just trying to fill the frame with the animal and cut off the distracting stuff here. And I would rather have more space at the bottom of the animal because that's kind of showing you where the animal came from, and then less space at the top. So I think compositionally this thing works. And the rule of thirds isn't a hard and fast rule. It's just kind of a compositional guideline, sort of a starting place, and you can always break that rule a little bit. But this picture is a lot better because it did follow the conventions of the rule of third, as opposed to being the eyes being right in the middle of the frame.
Yeah, I agree with that. I second all of that.
This is a nice action shot. This is obviously I don't know where it is, but a brown bear in Alaska chasing after. Hey, Kent, did I lose you? Is your microphone still on? Oh, okay.
No, I'm here.
Okay, I saw your microphone go off. I couldn't hear you all of a sudden.
Uh,
Anyway, I think this is a just a nice action shot. I think again, if we talk about the rule of thirds, compositionally, it's to me it's spot on. You always want to have since the bear's kind of moving towards the left hand side of the frame. You always want to move, always want to add a little bit of space for it to move into. Uh, I think the body position's great when you curated these pictures, and that's another thing. Sometimes it's a matter of you've got 70 pictures of the same thing, which one's the best out of the 70? And I think this one's fine. I mean, I think it looks great. The one thing, and this is perfect world stuff that you had no control over, I don't it just looks a little bit high key because of the background, but again, there's nothing you can do about that. I just wonder what it'd look like if you had been a little bit lower angle. Is it all water behind you, or is there a little bit of green back there? Because sometimes if you can add a little bit of green into the picture, whether it's the reflection in the water or just some trees in the background, it kind of helps restore a little bit of color back to the picture where these white areas just kind of sap it out of there. Does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I have a lawnmower right outside my window, so I'm staying on mute for the benefit of everybody's ears. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, that is nice. Yeah, it's. I mean,
if that doesn't make you smile, I mean, you gotta wonder what's wrong with you, because that's awesome.
So this is kind of what I'm talking about there. So you got, I was talking about if you could get a little bit lower to have the a little bit of color in the background to kind of add it back to the image. This is a good example there where you've got a different color background and it looks to be in the exact same light, but it doesn't appear to be nearly as washed out in a shot like this as it did the last one. So that, again, what I said earlier isn't a knock on the picture. I love the picture, but it's just a practical matter and thinking in the future in a perfect world. It's all about shooting intentionally and lining those things up where you get the best result you can in the end. But yeah, this shot here is nice. I love this picture.
Yeah, that looks like that could have been a spring cub towards the fall season, about that age group. Those are really fun to watch up there.
I think the lawnmower's gone.
I think so, yeah.
I'd be interested to know where this picture was taken because this looks like an area that I shot in last summer at Lake Clark on Crescent Lake. We had a bunch of bears swimming around, and it looked really similar to this. But yeah, this is the one thing you could have done different on this. Compositionally, it's great, and you can see that it's backlit. But I'm just going to play with it a little bit, see if I can just do a quick fix. I just hit the auto button on Lightroom, and it did bring out a little more detail in it. Just sometimes it's a matter of just kind of moving that shadow slider and then just getting a little more detail on the face there. You don't have to move it a lot. It's just a subtle movement. And I'm also kind of curious about one more thing too. If I can take a look at it. Yeah. Yeah, this picture looks like it's been, I don't know if it's been cropped or not. Yeah, Lake Clark, Alaska. But nice job. Okay. Oops. Hang on.
Yeah, I like it. I like that. I like the change that you made. It just gives a little more detail on those eyes.
Yeah, and all I did, and I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but a lot of times the best button to hit on Lightroom is to hit auto. This is your first choice, just to see what Lightroom thinks, because auto is getting better and better all the time. And that's all I did there is hit auto, and it recognized some shadow areas and it brought out a little more detail.
Oh,
yeah, this one's nice. This is a shot I've been trying to get ever since I've been doing bears in Alaska and just haven't been able to get it yet. So whoever shot this picture, nice job there.
Bruce, are you still on? Is that one of yours?
So this picture here, it's love the pose. Again, I don't usually think of the world in black and white, but I think as far as the treatment on this one, I think black and white's really appropriate.
Yeah, I like that.
You guys make it hard on us when you show us pictures that there's not a lot we can comment on.
Yeah, no kidding. It just kind of makes us look like we're like, that's really good. Oh, hey, Mark. That is Mark's. Nice job, man. It is
fantastic. This little bluebird's nice. Love the action. This is kind of one of the things that checks all the boxes. You always try to get an action shot of an animal, and this thing looks to be in a. It's a little bit soft when you zoom way in, but hey, I'm not gonna pick on you for that because that's zooming in as close as I can get it. So that looks plenty sharp from here. And I think one subtle thing too is cool. And I always look for this. Look at the little bit of red on its beak.
Yeah,
what do you think it's been eating? That's just a subtle context clue that, kind of ties into the background behind it.
Yeah.
So I really like that. Hey, Kenton, go first on this next one, okay?
You got it. Well, I am not really sure what that is. Is that a?
I think it's a chupacabra.
Chupacabra. Yeah. No, I.
Oh, I threw a bad picture in here for you, Kenton, to see.
Is this one? I would say my first inclination is that this is a Russell Graves original.
Oh, I threw a bad one in for you to see how long it would stump you. But I could see the gears turning to see if you're trying to come up with something nice to say.
Well, I mean, Russell, you worked hard at it, and it looks. I like the framing. You know, that branch in the front kind of pulls my eye right up to the chupacabra.
Yeah, I mean, this is like every chupacabra or Bigfoot picture you've ever seen in your life. It's grainy. It's a little bit nondescript. We just can't tell what it is. And this was taken out of our back window at our old house. So,
oh, nice.
Oh, I couldn't help myself. I was about to laugh. So this is a plant just for you.
Classic. Thanks.
And my tell was, did you notice I kind of did one of these before I went to it? Because I was thinking I put it after this picture.
Yeah, nice.
No, but good job kind of leaning in and out and thinking, okay, what am I going to say about this dandy?
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for it to load. I was thinking maybe something was slow on my computer
there. That is how the picture was taken. Actually, my wife took this picture out of our back window, and that was with her iPhone, and that was me cropping way in on it on the iPhone picture.
Yeah.
It's just a mangy coyote that was behind our house one time. back to the good stuff.
Welcome back to webinar world, Ken.
Yeah.
It's great to be here with you.
Oh, this snowy owl. This is, I mean, content-wise, love the picture, love the action and everything. I think here's the way I would try to improve this picture. If it had, and I'm going to really extreme crop on it like this, and this kind of, you kind of cut into a little bit of, is it right or wrong to do this? One of the things that I try to teach a lot is take a picture of the blank background you're on. So if you miss a shot and it's not perfect composition, you can go back and change it. I think if you had a little bit more wide above this bird to kind of give it more space to fly into, I think a composition like this with a little bit more space on top would, I think it's a nice shot as it is, but I think it'd really be a home run in that regard. Again, from a content standpoint, I love it. From a composition standpoint, I think it could be improved a little bit on the composition standpoint.
Yeah, I agree. I like the simplicity of it, and the white. The white is striking.
Oh, I do too.
But yeah, I like your suggestions.
And we all miss on stuff like this, and I don't know if this was intentional to shot this way or if it was you just look up and the owl's trying to fly away and you're just doing what you can when you can. But again, this is a pretty simple fix in Photoshop, Photoshop's a better tool for it. Pretty simple fix in Photoshop to be able to add to that wide above it and then to be able to simplify the composition to an even higher degree. There's a goose, I think. Here's how
goose.
It looks like a speckled belly goose, but I'm not sure about that. I was just kind of playing with some compositions. I think the only thing, again, from a compositional standpoint, that I think if you cropped a little bit tighter, this area to the right of the bird's head had a little bit little bit too wide open for me. I think just a little slight crop would improve it a little bit. And again, all these things we're talking about are things you could do in camera, not in post processing necessarily, just by rethinking how you're taking the picture as you're taking it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, again, like we keep going back to rule of thirds and photography. Even though there's a lot of technicality to it, it really comes down to just doing the fundamentals and doing the fundamentals right every single time, where they become predictable. And just thinking about things like, the lighting on this is nice. I really like the lighting on this, but just thinking about things like the rule of thirds, or in the case of a lot of wildlife species, just you can, I talk about it a lot, but you can modify the background by just changing your perspective. And in this case, I'd be curious to see whoever took the picture was just crouched a little bit lower to be at more eye level with the animal.
Yeah, I agree. And you just touched on it again, but like there's all these things that we might be thinking about, but by doing stuff like this, by looking at this and thinking through them, a lot of those things will just start to be second nature. You don't even have to think about them because you're just going to do them.
Yeah. And I equate it photography a lot of times, if you listen to my webinars, to golf, and that the best golfers in the world play the game knowing they're not ever going to play it perfectly, but they play it anyway because it's the pursuit of perfection that makes it fun. And photography is no different. But like golf too, those guys do the same from a fundamental standpoint. Those guys that play golf at the highest levels, they do the same thing every single time, and they don't have to think about it. It becomes muscle memory after a while. And that's how thinking about the background becomes. You just instantly know it when you see it, and you instantly know how to react, and you're able to pre-visualize a lot better. But that's where you got to think about and study the craft, and it becomes muscle memory after a while.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I really do love about that last image, if you could go back. Look at the way that the feathers kind of like, they're leading lines. They're bringing your eye in off that lower right quadrant of the photo and pulling your eye right up into the face and the eyeball. And again, the eye is typically our kind of our subject point there that we want our.
And that thing is super sharp too.
Yeah, and it's just really nice. I think your suggestion to tighten that up, so your eye doesn't move off from the darker area to the lighter area, and just really tighten that up. I think you could get a really, really special image here.
No, it's I think they're on the right track as they are. And again, these critiques aren't to say how much you're doing wrong. It's just to say, a lot of them are you're doing right. We're given perfect world scenarios.
Oh my gosh, I've learned a ton already just through however many images we've looked at.
Yeah, this right here is a nice shot. For me, animals live in the wild, and I know there's something to be said about a really super clean image, but the fact that this has some greenery in the front of the lens, and you're creating that, it's like you were talking about in the last picture with the feathers framing. You're creating this framing of this for this woodpecker. I think that little out of focus greenery, as subtle as it seems, I think really makes this picture. Without it, it's not as strong as the picture what it is now, but with it, it's strong. I think compositionally, it's the light's beautiful. Compositionally, you can see I'll overlay the thirds on there, and then it's given plenty of room for the bird to look into. And from a contextual standpoint, and I'm breaking this down after the fact. When I take pictures like this, I'm not thinking through, well, contextually, I've got to do this or that. It becomes muscle memory. But I think it's a bonus points for being in front of this tree where this woodpecker has really worked on over time.
Yeah,
I think that adds a lot to the picture.
Yeah, I really like that perspective, and coming from you, who's specialized in doing wildlife photography over the course of many, many years. It's a very interesting perspective, something to keep in mind for everybody there.
Yep. I like that picture. And those are hard. Those pileated woodpeckers are hard to get pictures of.
Ooh,
that's nice.
That is.
It's a stare down.
No kidding. I can't help but just stare into its eyeballs. My eyes will not leave them. I'm also a little bit afraid of it.
That appears to be some sort of, it says tree swallow on my sea cap. I don't know. It's some kind of swallow or swift. I'm not sure which it is, but the thing about all bird species, which I love, if you catch them in the right light, and whoever shot this picture obviously did a good job, but you catch that iridescence in the feathers. And, would they look dark or black from a distance, once the iridescence shines, you see that they're really purple or blue. And so a little bit softer on the eyes on this eye. This eye looks to be a lot sharper than this one does. But overall, I mean, I'm not going to be real picky about that. I really like the composition and I've said before, I'm not a huge fan of the square crop, but I can definitely see why it was done in this case. And this was shot okay on a Nikon D7200. So yeah, nice job. I like it.
Yeah, I do too. What was the aperture used there? It was a good choice.
F6.3, which is the limits of that lens. It's a 70 to 300, f4.5 to 6.3. So nice job. See, that's a good example of how the background influences the angle of the background influences the picture. If whatever's in the background, those trees or bushes would have been closer to that bird, you can't get that just soft out of focus background like that.
I know. I have a good guess of where this might be. We go there every summer and autumn up to Glacier. I would assume that's where they are. It's not the only place that mountain goats live, but I don't. You know what's curious about this though, Russell? You notice something that you're not seeing on those animals?
I don't know.
There's no the radio collars.
Okay,
track them. So either this one's
to say that
way up in the back country somewhere, or just got real lucky that they found a few that weren't collared yet. But I bet you this was taken up somewhere after a decent sized hike, which is pretty awesome.
I've never done one of the glacier trips before, so I wouldn't know the goats there. I can tell you, when we do see these in Yellowstone, they're about the size of a speck on the side of a mountain. We never see them down low there. Yeah. I can go up into the northeast entrance of Yellowstone and usually find them with binoculars, but they're way up there. But they're cool animals, and they're really fun to see.
Yeah, you can obviously find these in other places than Glacier, up here my way too, in the Cascades. I think they're ranging around up there too. But yeah, and there's some young ones there with them too.
I mean, I think I talked earlier about the 3 basic shots I try to get of wildlife, the environmental shot being one of them, showing them the kind of habitat they live in. I think it's great. My only suggestion on this would be probably I've got one of those touch mouses or mice, and every time I drag my finger across it changes it. I think on this one, and I can't make a crop like this without cutting some of it out, but just to show you, I think just to illustrate the bottom, if you'd have framed the picture like this with less on the bottom and more mountain above it on top, I think it kind of illustrates it kind of makes the composition, in my mind, a little bit better, because you lose some of this just empty space down here that really doesn't add much to the picture.
Yep, I agree with that. It brings the main players of the shot more into the forefront too.
Plus, from a dramatic standpoint, if you don't know what you don't know. So if it was framed just below these goats, where you can't see how gently sloping the hill is, it looks like they're living on that cliff face, and it just makes the picture a little more dramatic. I like this shot too. I like the eye levelness of it. It's probably not shot at the most optimal point of the day, and I think I'm just going to do a little. I think if you could tweak the white balance just a little bit to kind of give it a little more hint that it may be in the evening. Just going to make a couple of slight changes to it. But the one thing I would improve on this one more than anything is just the fact that it's just crooked.
Yeah, I was gonna say, could you straighten that out and show us? Yeah,
I can a little bit, but it doesn't glue me a lot above it. So let me back out of that. I think if I just I don't know if the original picture had more in it than this, but I can change it just a little bit. It's still a little bit crooked, but it's better than it was. But I'll show you just by changing the temperature and exposure a little bit. That's what it looked like coming in. Does it kind of have a bluish cast on your side?
Yeah, it does.
And then I fix it a little bit there.
Yeah.
I think we take away the bluish cast by adjusting the white balance and then kind of straighten it out a little bit better. I think it makes it a nice shot. But good job on the low angle. I mean, that's one of the things that you really have to coach people on a lot of times. If you go to the popular places like Katmai and Yellowstone, you'll see photographers there. Everyone's not necessarily our group because I try to coach differently, but you'll see almost everybody else there with their tripods fully extended, everybody standing up, everybody's taking the exact same pictures. And to have the presence of mind like whoever shot this picture had to just get low, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about, becoming muscle memory. And you don't have to think twice the next time you see it. You just know it's when you get low, it's a better perspective for the animal. You're at eye level with the animal. Plus it improves the background a lot as well.
Yeah, it definitely does. I like the reflection of the bear and how it plays off that little corner of the land that was included. Kind of gives it a nice little swirl for the eyeball to go around and around, and my eye does not want to leave this shot.
I agree. It's a nice picture. Hey, by the way, I'm looking at the time. It's 12:51 now. We're not going to finish by 1:00. Ken and I are committed to staying with this till the end. We're not just going to quit when it gets 1:00. So if you've got to move on, that's fine. This webinar is being recorded, and since you registered for it, you will get a copy of that recording in your inbox. Am I correct about that, Kenton?
That is correct.
Yep. So just if you got to run, we understand, but we're going to keep going on this a little bit. I like this picture, super sharp. Again, kind of the picture of the goose. I don't know if this right side really helps it much. I know I said I'm not a fan of
I like
square, but
I love what you're doing, and that was definitely my first thought. But just to throw this out there, so when you place an animal or a person in an image like this, and you don't give them that room over there where the eyes are going, can that create some tension that is helpful to the image in some instances?
I don't ever think about that deeply. Honestly, no. I mean, you may be right. I'm not arguing with you at all. I just,
and I'm just throwing it out there too, because my first inclination when you pop this up was okay, we want him over on the right side so he's clear, because that's the standard thought, right?
Yeah.
But if you're creating some tension in a scene where maybe this bear is like pulling his head out of the water because something caused him to do that, him or her, and she or he has that kind of that look of what's next. Does it work? Maybe.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, you're right. Like I said, I'm not arguing with you. I just don't. A lot of times when things are happening like this, they're just happening quick, and you just kind of, you just sort of just trying to get the shot. And whoever took this picture, I mean, the fact that it's sharp as it can be. I mean, it's just right on the money as far as sharpness is concerned. And I'm thinking about the shutter speed. You got just enough shutter speed to freeze the water, but not so much where the water looks frozen. It's got a little bit of a blur to it. I like that as well. They shot this at 2 to 500 millimeter lens, 1/5,000th of a second at f5.6. ISO is 3200. Oops, that coming. Do that all the time. Yeah, I mean, no, I see your point. I see your point exactly.
Yeah, it's just maybe, not a traditional thought, but just curious.
That one's nice. I really like this crop.
Yeah,
I do like it as tight as it is. And see, that to me, that's I'm assuming these are the, looks like even maybe the same bear because I'm looking at the patterns on there on the bridge of its nose. See, that to me, that's a good example of you're filling up the less interesting parts with the bear and
Right.
you've got enough space for it to look into. So compositionally, for me, this one works. And to me, the tension is like you suggest is created just by the tight crop. You can't see everything, and that's probably okay in this case. I mean, I think I think the fact that you can see its eyes and see its menacing claws is really all you need to see in this picture. So I think I didn't articulate it well, but I think compositionally, that's what I dream of as necessarily opposed to that one. But technically, they're both good pictures. But compositionally, I think this one's a stronger one than the last one.
Yeah, I agree. And those nails are awesome, and tightening it up like that is a great way to showcase those nails.
Oh, I think so too. Same way here. I think this is a less is more kind of shot. Again, what I said earlier about the low angle is great on this one.
That is really creative.
Yeah,
I love that. That's a shot I have not thought about while out there. I really like whoever came up with this thought. They were thinking.
Yeah. Yep. Nice job. Just trying to look.
I could see that. I could see that in black and white too. Be really neat.
Yeah, and to me, it's all the subtleties on this that make it. This is kind of where I start. I mentioned on the woodpecker picture earlier, the subtleties that make the shots, as well as the bluebird picture with a little red on its beak. And then this one, the subtleties are the mud on the claws and just a little bit of greenery around the corner of its mouth. Really, to me, make this shot even more special. I mean, it's pretty nice as it is. That's nice. I like the lighting on this one. This one's I'm not going to say this kind of runs the line, and I'm not saying this in a bad way at all. This runs the borderline between, is there a lot of post-processing or no post-processing? And I think if you're going to post-process, that's the place you want to be, because it's not, my first glance is this does not have any post-processing other than just maybe a crop. But I love the look and the tone and the feel of this image right here. I just think it's really, really nice. And, the eye contact's perfect.
Yeah.
The picture is super, super sharp. I need to clean my glasses off. I've been doing this whole thing with dirty glasses, Kenton.
I do my whole life with dirty glasses.
I hope judgment.
My first thought on this one is, man, that looks like my puppy that attacks me every morning. But the second thought is just, I love the light. And to get a nice crisp shot like that and delicious light like that is outstanding.
Hey, I can see all the pictures now. Maybe we need to go back and start over again. I have different thoughts on them.
Whoa.
Yeah, this one's nice too.
Sweet.
This one is nice where, from a compositional standpoint, it looks to me intentional. And I talk about compositional a lot. And I'm going to tell you this, and I'm not pandering to the group here. I judged the photo contest last summer. There was a wildlife photography contest. It's a pretty big one here in Texas, maybe the biggest in Texas. And I had 4,000 or 5,000 pictures I had to go through. And the thing that concerned me the most, that I said, because we did 2 rounds of this competition. Round 1 was we had to go through and cull down to just our top 200 pictures out of 4,000 or 5,000. And then the second round was we all got together. Me and the other 2 judges got together and did our final picks in the same room together. And the thing I told them that concerned me was the depth of composition when it comes to photography, because these cameras have made it too easy just to put the center focusing point. I think it's the camera manufacturers as well as the social medias, especially Instagram, has caused the death to composition. And so when you look at a nice 4/3 composed image like this one's a little bit off from 4/3. It looks like it's been cropped a little bit. But the fact that they had, whoever shot this picture had the presence of mind to know that the out of focus water underneath this hippo was more important than the out of focus dark areas behind it, I think says a lot to whoever shot this picture. That's an intentional composition. And and the fact it's lit like that, I think it's bonus points. Just a beautiful shot.
Yeah. More gorgeous light there.
Yep.
More gorgeous light.
It
Is
is.
this all in one spot? There's a bang, bang, bang. Could you be that lucky?
I don't know. Maybe just trying to make up a story here. Maybe that hippo is this guy's pet, and he just is tired of feeding him all the time. That's the look on his
Yeah,
face.
he does look.
He's just fed up with it.
Yeah, he looks like he's tired. He's over him.
Yeah,
I
beautiful
mean,
light.
that plant there in the front there looks an awful lot like that stuff on the hippo shot right there. I wonder. The light's just great. That right there. I love the behavioral shot that still has him in the context of his environment. The light is great. It looks on my screen to be really nicely shot.
I'm looking at the metadata here, the XF info, and whoever shot this shoots like I do. Aperture priority, wide open, and then use exposure compensation. And they use it beautifully here. The thing I would do, it's obviously been cropped because it's cropped to square. I would remind people too that hang on. I would remind people too there's also another good way to crop, and that's a vertical. That looks like a true vertical.
Nice.
I kind of like that one better. That's what it looked like coming in. I think and again, the vertical, you don't have to crop it in post-processing. Just turn your camera on the side, and that's one thing I encourage everybody to do. If it's like this, I think this is I'm not sure the exact species of monkey this is. I hate to even say it, but because it's kind of vertical orientation, turn the camera on its side and shoot it vertically, and that's one of the ways that you start thinking beyond what everybody else is thinking, because so many people you see out in the field taking pictures, everybody shoots them horizontally, but think vertically from time to time, like in a scene like this. And to me, that's a stronger composition than what we're allowed to see here. It's just a vertical, kind of focuses more on the monkey, in my opinion.
No, I agree with that.
Oh, this is nice.
Is that a martin?
It's a ermine, I think. It looks like. So I got a full confession. Linda and I both have an affinity for small mammals, rodents, and the like. And so this is a nice shot. Yeah, that's one of those shots I look at it and I think, I don't know if I could have done better. It's well composed. The lighting is awesome. The pose, this is the classic yearbook shot. The pose, you couldn't have done better. So I like it.
I'm guessing those critters are a little bit fast too. So really nice job.
Linda says it's a short-tailed weasel that's called an ermine when it's white.
Ah.
Those are rules that I don't like to hear, Linda. I mean, we need to just call it either a short-tailed weasel or an ermine, not both. It confuses slow-minded people like me when you've got two names for them. This is nice. That's a great pose. And I just noticed that eagle's got a fish in its talons. That's cool.
Oh, it sure does. Yeah, I didn't catch that right off the bat.
Yeah, this is a nice composition as well.
Very nice.
It's a great pose on that eagle. I mean, that's kind of the classic pose that everybody thinks about. And speaking of that, what about the have you dove into the specs on that bald eagles of Alaska trip, the change up that's going on next year on it?
All I know is that they released that trip in the new itinerary, which looks fascinating. I think we're going out of Haines, Alaska now, which is even more remote than where we were. And the eagle population there is unreal, and the landscape around there is just classic Alaska over there in Haines. And it adds a little adventure to it that, the previous one was awesome. The previous location, but it looks fantastic.
No, I haven't done the previous one before. You're right. It is awesome. And it's that trip looks to be fantastic. So if you love bald eagles, man, and you want to see them fairly close, that's the way to go.
I mean, you're going to get plenty of opportunity to get the shots like these that we're seeing right here.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it.
This shot is nice. Well, one thing about this shot, it looks like the white balances off just a little bit. it looks a little blue in my opinion. It may be just my eyes, but I think one way this shot can be improved as much as anything is just whoever shot this picture a little bit lower angle. You know, again, that's one of those things that's subtle, but that's why I mention it, because that's some things that people don't think about. And when I say lower angle, I mean like a foot lower, just to be at more eye level with the eagle, which is going to change the way the background looks. And it's going to give you probably a more interesting background if you could get the horizon in the picture as opposed to just water stacked on top of water. Little sparrow in the snow. Yeah, this one, nice job. Sometimes it's not easy to do to get a good exposure in the snow, but really this one for me is just a little bit, you know, again, I'm cropping after the fact, even though I said I'm not a fan of cropping. That's the only way I can show you because I can't move the camera. But I think pointing that tail down in the corner like that, even though it's forcing the eye to the middle of the picture, sometimes that's just the way it works. But I think overall it kind of tightens up that composition a little bit as opposed to what the original was, and kind of moves some of the distracting elements out of the shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. Those guys move quick too, so
they do. They're hard to get pictures of.
Well done. Give them a little, yeah. These guys' little world that they live in. That.
Yeah, these shots are hard. It looks like, I don't know if whoever shot these pictures was walking around doing that, but just trying to play with the composition a little bit, see what I like better. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think what you did,
you could either do a vertical or I don't know. I kind of like that one better, I think. What do you like better? A vertical or a horizontal? I think the point is tightening up the composition a little bit and not just putting the bird right in the dead center is gonna make it a better shot.
Yeah, I agree. I think I might prefer the vertical a little bit, but not significantly enough that it matters.
So something like that. And notice when I'm doing the vertical, I'm not putting them right in the middle.
Right.
And I'm kind of using that rule of thirds as my guideline. I'm giving a little bit of space all the way around it.
Yeah. I like it. Looks like he's got a little hill to climb up and he's framed well.
Yeah. And I know we said it again. Those things become, after a while, when you start thinking about these things, they become intentional and they become muscle memory after a while where you're not thinking about it. You're just putting the camera up and thinking, okay, this looks best. Take the picture.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And full disclosure too, I just need to tell you what drives my compositional sensibilities. For the past 30 years, I've been doing magazine work. Still do a lot of magazine work. And one of the things I'm always thinking about on magazines is, I'm not going to tell you how many because I don't want to sound like I'm bragging on myself. I've had a lot of magazine covers, a ton of magazine covers. And so one of the things that I do is always think about, when I take this picture, is there going to be room to put the title of the magazine up top? And is there going to be room to put words down the side? Like if you look at this Outdoor Photographer magazine, that's what they do. They'll put words at the top and then usually put words somewhere like down the side. And so that sort of drives, I mean, that's generally a rule of thirds composition, but that's sort of what drives my compositional preferences when I think of cropping images like this, is just how would it look good on a page? Oops.
Look at those eyes.
That's what I was looking at. It's one of those shots I'll look at it and think, you know, I don't know this is perfect world stuff, so this isn't necessarily critique. This is just Russell wondering out loud. I just wonder if you would have shifted the head all the way to the left side of the frame, what would that have looked like? And again, you may have had a picture like this. This is just maybe one of a snapshot of 200 that I'm seeing or that we're seeing, but the eyes is what makes this.
Mm-hmm.
Again, as I play around a little bit, just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I like it.
I think it works either way. I'm just thinking out loud right now. And you can see the eyes, those things they appear to be acceptably sharp. So nice job. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's really nice.
It is nice.
I mean, for many reasons we've already pointed out,
Mm-hmm.
the behavior, the moment.
They're not necessarily nose to nose because the male is in focus and the female's out of focus, but its forced perspective makes it look like it. But I mean, I think it's okay like it is, because once you study it for a while, like you should do every photo, once you study it for a while, you realize the male's just looking past the female and vice versa. And that's kind of okay. And the lighting is beautiful in the shot. And I love the grass in the background going out of focus like it does. So nice job on that one as well. Sorry, just me thinking out loud again. Are you still there, Kenton? Hey, I don't know if that's Kenton that blocked out or if it's me. So if you can't hear me, okay, you there, Kenton?
Yeah, I'm here. I wasn't sure if I lost you or if it was my end.
Well, I was just asking everybody if you can still hear me. Just let me know, because all of a sudden you froze up, and I was the same way. I didn't know. I didn't know who got lost.
I was just about to ask out loud if it was me or you,
So,
and then it just clicked me out of there completely and brought me back in.
Okay, so Dan says he can hear. I guess it's you. I guess he's talking about me. I don't know. So just to keep us on track while we continue, just let us know. Just let us know if you can still hear us and see us both. So we'll keep going. Ellen asked the question, and I just now saw it. It was direct. I think it's directed straight at me on the CCAP. Am I talking about the one by iNaturalist? And yes, I am talking about that. Okay, so Dan says we're both back. Good deal.
Okay.
One of the things that I was making some changes on. So here's the original image, and the first thing that stands out to me is there's two things that stand out to me. But the first thing, and I think the most glaring, is it looks like the horizon's out of level. So all I'm going to do is just use Lightroom to straighten the horizon a little bit, and then I think once I do that, and from my eye, it kind of fixes the second thing that I was thinking about, is it looked like it was a little bit over processed. But now that I crop it a little bit and we take out the first thing, which is the crooked horizon, it does and eliminates some of that background. It doesn't look so bad to me now. It never looked bad. I shouldn't use that word, but it doesn't look as over processed to me now. Let me say it that way. What do you think, Ken?
Yeah, no, I would darken it down. You just did it. Yeah, and I guess I tend to like images just a smidge darker, but that looks good to me.
Yeah, I just darkened it about a half a stop. And again, it's subtle, but it makes a huge world of difference. So we're in agreement there.
Ooh. Hummingbird Landing.
That's cool. You know, my 84-year-old parents love their hummingbirds. And I always thought, what's the big deal about hummingbirds? And my dad tells me in my Texan dad country boy sort of way, hell, get you a hummingbird feeder. You'll see what you like about them. And so last summer I bought a hummingbird feeder and put down at one of our barns. And I'll tell you what, I fell in love with those things. They're the coolest little birds ever. I mean, I'll sit out there and watch them for hours, and just to watch them fly and watch them. They're pretty cantankerous too, though. They're not very friendly birds to one another.
Yeah,
but it's just so cool to watch them. And so I'm actually looking forward to it's about to be hummingbird season again. So I'm looking forward to seeing the hummingbirds come back.
Yeah, that was my summer 2020 activity. Well, we didn't do much else. We just photographed hummingbirds and just watched them and noticed, like, you'd have the same one come in and kind of just like guard the feeder a little bit and just chase people off. But it was a ton of fun. They were always there, and it was a lot of fun. They move fast, so it also adds a a fun challenge to try to get something that's worthwhile.
So I figured out how to start a video on them in slow motion. I mean, I don't have the super slow mo like you see that they use on the BBC Earth
Yeah.
documentaries, but just to get them in 240 frames per second slow motion. So I'd actually put two cameras up. I'd put one at the telephoto lens and just aim at a spot where I knew they were flying into. And the thing what I would do is to give you a little bit of tip. I mean, this has become a hummingbird webinar. Maybe we can do one of those in the future. But plug up the holes and just give them one hole to eat from. And then so I'd aim in the sky, and that way I'd get pictures of them flying in slow motion across. And then another thing I did was pretty cool was use my GoPro, which will shoot at 240 frames a second as well, and then get more of a wide angle shot of them kind of coming from up high down low with nothing but the sky in the background. That was a cool scene as well. You may or may not be seeing a video coming out about that fairly soon. So
right on.
But back to this hummingbird picture. I'm not sure of the species. I wonder if Seek can figure it out while I'm talking. This is, when I was talking about earlier about the kind of the composition I try to adhere to. This is kind of what I'm talking about. This probably can't figure out the exact species of hummingbird because I don't know where it was taken. It says rufous or allied species, so it's not telling me the exact species because there may not be those here. And so since it geolocates where you're at, I can't figure out. I don't know where the picture was taken, so I can't get the exact species. But this shot, I love it. Perfect world. Yeah, the hummingbird's turned around where you've got some separation between the sky and its beak. But this one, you can't control where hummingbirds land. But I really love the lighting on this picture. I love the background and the bokeh of the shot and just the overall composition. I think if I'm being really, really picky, I think the composition could be tightened up about right there. But other than that, that's just me being picky.
Yeah, agreed.
Hang on, I'm going to take
Rufus.
It's a rufus?
I think so. I don't claim to be a hummingbird expert after that that summer, but I think that's what that looked like.
That was nice.
Yeah, look at that. That's sharp, like the bokeh.
That is sharp. I think they're doing the tip I was talking about, just aiming in the spot. That is nice. Yeah. I got nothing to say about that one other than just nice job, whoever took it.
Slap the magazine title up top, and
that's all you got to do.
Yeah.
I like it.
Ooh.
This is a kingbird. This is kind of a yellow-bellied flycatcher. This is kind of a little bit of a, it's a nice thing. I'm not saying anything bad about it, but I'm trying to find the words to say why I like it so much. And I'm looking at the metadata, and maybe it's because it's shot at f11. It's a little bit more depth of field than I'm used to seeing. I think it's nice. I like the depth of field on it, even though it's not as shallow as what I would typically shoot myself. Just the fact it's giving a little bit of definition to the trees behind it, and the blue sky behind it. I think I like that one.
Yeah, I like the barbed wire. Where he's sitting there.
I'd be interested in where this was taken because I'm using Seek. And if that species was taken around here, Seek thinks it's a kingbird, and that's what I called it originally. This is a nice composition here too. It's I think it checks a lot of the boxes in terms of how I like to compose pictures. This is a good environmental shot. Of the three shots I'm talking about, this is a nice look. This is a nice environmental shot.
Would you take out any of that? Would you crop that down just a smidge? Take out a little bit of that left side, or do you like giving it that space?
You like that? No, I think, that works too. I don't disagree with you at all on that. The only thing, I'm going to look at this. I'm seeing some weird artifacts on the sky, so I'm not sure if that's really, 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 no, it doesn't appear to be cropped in. I don't know why that's doing that. I don't know if you can see how the sky looks kind of weird once I did that auto.
Right in there.
Yeah. Either way, I think it's again, from an environmental shot standpoint, I like it.
Sandhill crane. Huh?
Yeah. My issue with this picture, super sharp, you can hear some people debating about whether or not you should take pictures of animals' butts. Animals have butts, so I don't that doesn't bother me. I like the fact here's a subtleness I like about it. The fact that you got that little sliver of a horizon, just enough to anchor the bird in the picture. The thing I can't figure out is it looks like there was some clone stamping done back in here of some sort that I don't know that the clone stamping that was done. I don't know what the original picture looks like, but I don't know if the clone stamping that was done necessarily improves the picture of what a living original might have been. Do you see what I'm talking about there?
I do, yeah.
It looks like some bushes. I mean, some reeds or something were stamped out, but I think overall, it might have been just better to leave those. Composition's nice. The lighting's nice. I mean, it checks most of the fundamental boxes you need to check to make a good wildlife shot. But I think the clone stamping is the one thing I would leave out. This little egret here. This is, I think, what you're talking about earlier of nice tension, where the animal's kind of going one way but looking back the other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I like it darker. It was definitely.
I think that's the thing for me is it's just a little bit. It was that. That's the original the way it came in right there. It's just a little bit. Even though the histogram says it's in the middle, histograms. Okay, feel free to email me at the end and tell me where I'm wrong because I may, because I have people tell me that a lot. But histograms aren't always infallible way of determining exposure. Take it from me. Cameras do get exposures wrong. And the histograms, if the exposure is wrong, the histogram is going to be wrong. So you can't always rely on histogram to get a proper exposure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's didn't you guys run into that pack?
We did. Pack? Yeah, we did. I mean, I'm guessing it's the same pack. I've got pictures of the same wolf, and I don't know that David was there at the same time we were, but I mean, logically he was. So, yeah, that was a pretty good encounter. We were as close to the wolves as we could legally be on that trip, and that's pretty special when you can say that because most of the time when we see wolves, they're a pretty good ways off, but we were 100 yards away from these wolves. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it. I like this shot.
It is, and that's a nice nailed the exposure and a nice crop on that shot, David. So good job there. I think we saw the same bison. That's always fun to see when they've got their face covered in ice like that. Typically, you find those bison around the thermal features when they've got all that steam that's rising up in the mornings and steam lands on the animals and then freezes like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's where if you ever go back to Yellowstone and look for frosty bison, you look around the thermal features. That's where you get that look. And
I mean, that's quintessential Yellowstone in winter.
It is. That's what people want to get. So nice job on that one too, David.
There's another.
I think David was stalking us because we saw all these same scenes. He must have been in another snow coach close to us that we didn't see. But that looks like I could be wrong, but that looks like a group of bison we saw coming along the Madison River. Or that one may be along the Firehole River. We saw two different groups like that. So, but nice job of handling. So this is a tough exposure to handle. You've got the snow, you've got the shadow, and you got the light on the bison, you got the shadow. So a lot of stuff going on there that the cameras can't always get right. So that's one of the more advanced things. You got to have the presence of mind and know whether to underexpose or overexpose or whatever. And that's where when you look, and I'm looking at the histogram on this one, that's where the histogram won't always necessarily get it right. Because I'm looking at the histogram and it's telling me here, you got a bunch of stuff clipping off to the side. But when you know how to outsmart your camera, you can get an exposure like this one. So I'm looking at, it looks like he's 1 1/3 stop overexposed to what the camera suggested it should be. So that's just one of the things you got to learn as you do more and more outdoor photography stuff. Now, I do not think we saw this particular bald eagle on the Yellowstone trip, but nice job. It's just a beautiful classic shot, well composed. Sky's beautiful. The pose is nice. Overall, I mean, I think this shot works well.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool otter. Never saw any otters on our trip, so maybe we should have been following David around.
River otter. Those guys are fun to watch.
They are. I've got, well, this year I don't think it's going to happen because on my property, I've got my own wetland on my property. It's about 3 acres in size. And usually I will have otters that hang around for about a month and a half every spring.
Nice.
They'll move into the wetland and move out when the water starts going dry in the wetland. And we've had a dry winter here this year, so the wetland is not very wet right now. So I don't know if my otters will be back this year. We did see these guys. There was a group of, it was actually 4 rams, but one was always in exile away from the other ones. But there's a primarily group of 3 in Yellowstone that we saw, and just a magnificent example of the species. And this is kind of carrying on with the same tradition there. It's just a nice shot. It's a red-tailed hawk with a squirrel.
This one might have been an instance, when we were discussing before, where you get the shot and then maybe you move to get some things out of the way.
Yeah.
Whoever shot this probably did something like that. A great example, because there's really not much in the way there.
No, there's not. I mean, I think the limbs on this thing frame this well. I'm looking at, it was cropped some. I'm looking at the overall crop, and because it was shot at f7.1, which isn't too terribly closed down, but it's shot at with the R5. So yeah, it was. I think it looks to me like it was cropped a little bit, but overall, I think they did do that intentionally, and it's something you don't see every day. I think the composition on this is nice. This is a good example where you take what you can get when the action's happening. If we look at it from clearly a technical standpoint, the angle of light could be a little bit better. There could be 2 or 3 things that could be a little bit better. But from a behavior shot, you take it when you get it, and so whatever the light is and whatever the angle of the light is, you can't be perfect. But this is a good example of that, of taking the shot when you can get it. And so whoever shot this picture, it's a nice job. This is an example. Technically and compositionally, the picture's nice, but the only thing is I would have either moved around a little bit because it's an overcast day, so you're not worried about the angle of the light. But this, to me, if I'm being picky, this bison in the background, or these 2 bison in the background, really kind of just detract from the picture a little bit in my mind. And it's either it doesn't. We talk about intentional. It doesn't necessarily look intentional that they were left in there, because either you leave all of it, the bison, or you don't leave any of it. I think it'll look better if you just had the single bison on the white snow, in my opinion, as opposed to having the one in the background.
Yeah, I agree. A little space between them.
Like that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice job. And this is getting really, really picky. So this isn't a critique at all. But Lightroom makes it easy to see if we can. Yeah, just that's a not a perfect job, but it's just quick to eliminate that little twig that was at the bottom. Like I said, you could go back and spend a little more time on it and do a better job, but see what I'm talking about there? That little twig of grass that's in the way.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't bother me that bad. Like I said, that's just me being really, really picky. I like this composition though, but nice job on isolating the bison and shooting it vertically.
Yeah.
I'm doing a couple of more than a couple. I think I'm doing 3 or 4 polar bear trips this September and October. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's a big one. We haven't been up there for a while.
I know.
That'll be exciting to get back out there.
Yeah, and this is a limitation. This looks like it was probably shot from one of those snow buggies you see at Churchill, I'm thinking. So you can't do anything about the angle if you're having to shoot out of a buggy like this. But I think from a compositional standpoint, you did the best you could in how this thing was framed. It's like the elk on the first picture we saw. It's not always – I'd prefer to shoot at eye level with animals, but when you can't, I think that intentional composition like was accomplished on this one goes a long way in sort of balancing out the picture and making it look interesting, even though it was shot from a not an optimal angle. I was just playing around with it a little bit. It doesn't look as sharp as it can be either, and I don't know if that's because of the final image I got when I downloaded or what the deal was, but that's my only take on that one. My nose is itching, Kenton.
Yeah.
Yep, I've
Having
spring allergies are coming on.
Spring allergies down there. What bugs you down there in the plains of Texas?
I'm not in the plains of Texas anymore. I'm more in the woods of Texas, but everything.
Oh.
Yeah, we get this time of year we're on the big roller coaster where it was 70 degrees 2 days ago and the high was 40 degrees yesterday. And low of probably 25 degrees yesterday, and it's a little bit warmer today, but then it's going to be this, it's going to warm up for a couple of days, and Friday we're going to have a high of 35. So it's just whatever, all that is what's going on.
Yeah. I'm waiting to see what spring brings me up here, since this is the first spring I've been up in the Bellingham area. We used to get rained on by the ponderosa pine pollen. Like you'd come outside and everything would be yellow, and then we had some other things that were shooting pollen into the air, and so everybody would have the allergy issue going at the same time. But away from that now, I look forward to seeing what's going to get me up here.
I'm no physician, but I don't understand why allergies are even a thing in people. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Robin asked the question, do you two sign your photos? I do not sign my photos.
I don't either.
I don't know that my signature is more interesting than the pictures of stuff I'm trying to take. So as a rule, I don't sign my photos at all, Robin. Or Rob, I'm sorry. I said Robin. Rob.
Yeah, I don't either. Maybe it's just a lack of going out and getting a real cool looking signature made for me or whatever, but no, I don't.
Yeah.
This image here, I love cardinals. I really do. And the snow scene is really neat, and it seems like some of the image at least is sharp. I don't know, Russell. You think that up there in that top left corner there, they feel a little sandwiched in there?
I think I see where the composition is heading. I like the fact that it was shot against a dark background, so you can see all the snow falling. And this is what I don't know. If 2 frames from now, were those birds looking the other way? I think if they were looking the other way, it'd probably be a better shot. Because it feels to me if they framed it more to the left, you can probably see more of the tree, and the frame becomes a lot busier. You don't have that kind of that open and airy sort of look to it. I like the attempt, totally. But this is the one thing you can't control is I wish the birds were looking a different way. I think it'd have been a stronger composition if they were looking more to the right of the frame as opposed to looking to the left side of the frame. The camera left and camera right.
Pretty
not their left. It is pretty.
It makes me think about being there in that scene.
No, I agree.
Cardinals are gorgeous.
It's beautiful. That is 1/4 of the ultimate photography goal I have that is represented in an Alabama song called Dixieland. You're probably not a country music fan, are you, Kenton?
Well, not enough to know what you're referencing. So, you need to hear the story.
So take it from me. The first time I said this to Trevor, he knew exactly what I was referencing, because in that song, they mention all the great things about, they're singing about a girl, of course, but they mention they're out in the country one day and they see white-tailed buck deer munching on clover, red-tailed hawk sitting on a limb, and then chubby old groundhog and croaking bullfrog are the other 2 animals they mentioned. So if I can go on a Smokies trip and photograph all 4 of those things on the same trip, that's the drop the mic moment for me. I've accomplished everything I've ever wanted to accomplish, photographically speaking. That's a nice shot. It looked that red-tailed hawk looks to be sitting in the cottonwood tree. It's a good environmental shot, and that's typically where you see them all the time. I don't really have a whole lot of other things to say about it, other than maybe the white balance could be warmed up just a little bit, maybe just a skosh, like something like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. This shot reminds me of the eagle shot in Blaine that I was telling you about at the at the
Yeah.
beginning of this thing, and these are the exact things I started to think about. What are those branches doing for me, or are they doing anything that I don't like? And that's kind of how I filtered through the handful of shots that I took, just looking at what are those branches doing for me. And then I started to think about, the white balance, the color, and just, yeah, exactly what you're doing there. And I came up with maybe one that I really liked out of the batch, but that's, that's hitting for a good average.
Yep. This is a tri-colored heron. The thing on this one, it's kind of an unusual perspective, obviously shot down on, and again, that's not always a bad thing. I think the only I love the glass-like reflection in the image. The only thing I think I would have tried to do a little bit different is if you're going for the reflection, is not try to compose it where you don't have the head chopped off. Even if you had to change perspective a little bit, because I noticed you've got a little bit of vegetation in the way. I think that's the only thing. Other than that, I love the simplicity of this image. I mean,
yeah, those are the two things that stood out right away. It was the neat glassy look,
yep.
And then the shadow just being just cut off a little bit.
Just a little bit. Same way here on the reflection. Just if you're trying to get the reflection in, maybe watch cutting those off. I'm just gonna play with the exposure a little bit. I think, as a rule of thumb, I always try to expose for what the main focus of the picture is. And that's obviously going to be the eye of the animal. And so if we're trying to expose for the eye of the animal, the proper exposure is more about right there, maybe a little dark, more about right there. So I think overall, it's, if we go back to zero, it's right there. It's a little overexposed. But number two, I think if if you're trying to get the reflection in, just watch cutting the reflections off.
I feel like when you darkened that down, it changed, for me anyways, it changed a little bit of the feel of the shot in a good way. It gives it like a little bit more of an isolated, quiet feel to that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. But you can see there, if you see, this is, y'all can't see this, but I'm looking at the histogram of this image, and all the histograms right in the middle of the image, like we're taught where it needs to be, or a lot of people teach where it needs to be. But if you look at the eye right now, that's the original exposure, like I got it. Now, if I move to where I think the exposure ought to be, and it's more like about a stop and a half underexposed than what it was turned in as, it takes all that histogram info to the left, where it's almost running off the histogram page. But when you look at the image like that, to me, that's more of a properly exposed picture than what we had before.
Yeah, I agree.
Makes sense?
There's a more impact.
I think so. I mean, that's I don't know, say anything anymore about that. That's just a nice shot.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's got a nice angle to it, low angle. Doesn't bother me if the horns and the head's cut off. I think that kind of adds to the impact of the shot, because it just takes away some of that less than interesting sky. And yeah, love the fact that you can see its breath too. So nice job on that one.
Yeah, that's good.
The tri-colored heron. Yeah, I think this one's a little more properly exposed. I just hit auto right there to see what it would do. I don't know that it may bring out a little bit of detail, but not remarkably so. I mean, this one here, I like the tightness of the shot. This is kind of a yearbook shot in my mind. Just a good representative shot of the species. A little bit of a it shows you where it lives too. If you look here, it's got just, these are subtle hints, and I like subtle hints in a picture, but these are just some of the mangrove. These look like mangroves that are popping up around it. So just kind of gives you an idea where this bird lives. And so the fact that it's a little bit backlit's great too. So I like this shot, honestly. That's cool. You want to talk about a yearbook shot? This looks like it was shot with a flash.
Yeah, it does.
That's a black crowned night heron. It looks like. Can't tell if it was, but see what's unusual about it is you don't see a flash in the eye. So, I don't know. Whoever did this one, this is a nice shot. All I did was hit auto right there on Lightroom. Brings out a little bit of feather detail. Can you see that on your end?
Yeah.
Didn't want to do that.
Yeah, I do, and I
Just
like what's doing in the background too.
yeah.
Really nice lighting.
It is. Yeah. That I don't. I mean, I could. Instinctually, I want to talk about this over and over, but I mean, I don't. This is nice. I don't have anything nice to say about it. But this is. I will say this. This is a good example of being mindful of the background and trying to find an angle where this bird doesn't overlap this poison ivy in the background.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think the poison ivy actually complements it. I'm curious about one thing. This was shot at f11. Okay, that explains why that's so in focus. But nice job, whoever shot that one. This is a nice one too. Just a simple shot. I like how the trees sort of balance the bison and the composition. This is a well thought out, intentional composition here in my mind.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I think.
I like what they did with the trees and just the lonely. It just gives them a sense of loneliness.
Yeah, it does.
Which is really neat.
It's simple, but it's a good simple. Yeah. Here's a great white egret.
That would be awesome if he was looking at us.
I know. Oops. A little bit of mystery there, though, that's looking away.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Going on back there.
Yeah, that's kind of what makes me think. I just hit auto to see what that would do. I don't know. What do you think? You like that one? Or you like that one?
I think I would definitely like that one if it was looking at us.
Like, what are you talking about? Like the one with the dark background if it was looking at us?
With the lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I think you could make arguments for both.
I think you could too. I think you make a virtual copy of both of them and keep both of them. Yeah, I mean it's I think one thing you could do to improve it, it looks like right now. I think it could pop a little bit. So I'm just gonna. All I'm doing here is bringing up the whites a little bit.
Yeah.
And then just maybe the exposure just a little bit.
No, I liked what you did with the whites there. The most interesting part of that bird is that I don't know what you'd call that skirt that it's got, and that really made that come out a little bit better.
So here's what I did by just tweaking the whites and the shadows and the exposure and the contrast just a little bit. I'm going to show you. This is original, and then all I did was just kind of made that white pop a little more. What do you think? Original?
Yeah.
I like this one better, but that's me.
I concur.
But those are the subtle changes that we talk about all the time. This is one of those ones that looks like the white balances off a little bit. Maybe just a hair. But this blue heron is I always like it when those birds stand on one legs like that. Those wading birds are notorious for doing that. That's always cool, I think. But from a compositional standpoint, this one works. This is one of those. This is me being picky now. This is one of those things that would have looked better if it had been shot at a different time of the day with a little bit softer light. Yeah, but you take it when you can get it. This shot was taken, if the camera is correct, this one was at 11:14 a.m. It looked better at 9:14 a.m., but you take it when you get it, and I understand that completely. That's cool.
Oh, Yeah. Some action.
It is.
Interaction.
Yeah, that's I don't know who's the aggressor and who's the defender, but either way, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's really nice. I don't have much to say about that. It's well composed, and that's something you don't see every day. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before.
No. Sharp too. Looks for me.
Yeah, no, it is. Oh, there's a rodent.
A little rodent.
I love rodents.
Don't feed him, Russell.
I don't.
Do you know what the most dangerous animal at Grand Canyon is besides humans?
I would say because we're talking about rodents, some kind of chipmunk.
Darn. Yeah, I didn't. I kind of teed that up for you, didn't I? It's the rock squirrel. You know, we have. Let's see, Grand Canyon has. Oh, there's mountain lions and there's all kinds of snakes and fun stuff like that. But the thing most likely to cause problems for you is the rock squirrel.
I mean, what kind of problems are they causing?
Well, they bite more often than anything else, which is the reason.
Really?
And the reason they bite more than anything else is because we like to feed them Cheetos.
Oh yeah.
To the no-no, by the way. And
we feed them Cheetos.
Yeah, so they have kind of. I was talking to a ranger a few years back, and she was saying, we kind of created a whole new breed of rock squirrel because they're starting to be more combative with each other, and you'll see them in the more popular areas down there in the park, where they'll be they're way overweight, and B they have a lot of damage, like fight wounds, because they're fighting each other now for these peanuts and Cheetos and things that we're feeding them. But yeah, they're most likely to bite, and they carry some diseases, even the bubonic plague.
So Sandra said that on this picture, it was the hawk was attacking the nest.
Ah, I see.
So the all I did on that one is I cropped it a little bit tighter and then hit the auto settings just to make the colors and the contrast pop. So there's the auto settings. Again, it's subtle, but it's something. And
yeah,
then,
I like it. It's better.
And then on the crop, all I did was that little bright spot in the upper corner. Mm-hmm. Just kind of took it out.
Yeah, I have a shot very similar to this one of a Kaibab squirrel on the north side of the canyon. Those squirrels are a lot cuter and nicer than the rock squirrels. They don't tend to bite anybody.
But I like this shot. It's just a good representative shot of the species.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice one too. This is a good environmental shot and a good behavior shot. I'm gonna see if she knows what this is.
Yeah, I like that. I like the.
It says it's a white-breasted nuthatch.
It does look like a nuthatch.
But yeah, I like that shot. I'm gonna break down why I like it. I think the bit of greenery in the bottom is nice. I think the complementary greenery that's out of focus in the background is nice because you can tell enough about the shape to understand, at least subliminally, it's some kind of pine tree. And then the fact that this bird is positioned properly from a compositional standpoint on top or at the top of the stump is nice as well. If I was going to change anything, it might be a slight change in composition, but that's me being picky. But I think overall the picture works. It's a nice shot.
Yeah, agreed.
That's a screaming hawk. I can't. I think on this one, let me look at something. That was shot at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It looks on 2/27, so it's a pretty recent shot. One thing I can think of, it might be cropped quite a bit. It looks like it's a little cropped to the extreme. So, that's as far as the action is concerned, it's nice action. Sometimes it's just hard to get a good shot when the things aren't the elements for a good shot just aren't there. I jokingly tell people sometimes you got to follow the wisdom of the great philosopher Kenny Rogers, and you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Because sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you just the the elements conspire against you to make a really, really, really good shot. And I think whoever took this shot, that's one of the things going on there. It's not to diminish the capabilities of the photographer, because the timing was great on this, and you've got all your settings dialed in perfectly. But every now and then you get it presented with something. It's just hard to make a good picture of it. And I think this is one of those times. And then when you recognize that, and you're not as hard on yourself about if it's not as good a picture as you thought it would be in your mind. And but other than that, I think the composition's nice. The settings are right on the money. The colors look a little bit off to me, and I don't know why that is. It's not exposure. It may be white balance as much as anything. It looks a little blue to me, but that white balance is fixed a little bit. But other than that, I think it's a good attempt at catching something, a moment in time that was really hard to capture.
Yeah, I've been there before, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I do too. These they looked, I'm not sure exactly. They look to be, yeah, I was going to say reddish egrets is what they look to be. I mean, as far as behavioral shots, I think it's nice. I mean, I'm going to say it's as good as they come. I've seen a lot of reddish egrets before. They're not super common in the United States, but they are here. But I love the behavior shot. I love the low angle, love the background. I mean, this kind of checks all the boxes for me.
Yeah.
As far
I
as
love the simplicity that, there isn't anything else in that image to distract us. There's nice thirds, I would say.
Yeah.
Checks all the boxes is
a
nice way to say that.
And this was shot at f4. Huh. I'm looking at the metadata here. It says this was shot on the Sony ILCE-1. I'm not familiar with that.
Not either.
But 600 millimeter f4 is what it was shot at. Sony ILC. I don't know what camera that is. This one's nice. I mean, this one, that is not an easy exposure to get. And I'm looking at this one right here, and that one is shot with the Sony. Okay. All right. I thought this was your picture, Dave. Dave says it's a Sony A1. That's what it says, ILCE1. So that was shot with the 600 millimeter f4. This is a Sony A1. This is nice. I mean, this is as good as exposure as you could get. That's a hard exposure to get because that dark background on the that dark background on the with the front lit bird like that, the cameras don't always get that right. It tries to bias towards the background, and so Dave, you did a nice job on this one as far as getting exposure correctly. So well done.
Yeah, really well done. I mean, a moment of let's go. Just impressive.
Do you know what the barred owl says when it calls, Kenton?
No, I don't.
So let's see if anybody else knows this. What it's saying when it calls. This is nice too. This is I noticed a few of these today. This may be more my screen. I don't think it is, but some of these pictures look like they're coming in with a little bit of bluish cast. See it? Can you see that? Okay, if I reset that, Kenton, can you see that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So there's auto right there. Does it look? See, it looks a little bluish. Does it to you?
It does.
And I think if we warm it up a little bit, yeah, I think that looks better, don't you?
I do.
That's the only thing on this one. Compositionally, it looks nice. I mean, this is a good example of where it's okay to break the rule of composition, because you're not giving this bird a lot of room to fly into. But the bird isn't necessarily the only star of this show. A close supporting character is all that Spanish moss it's carrying with him. And so, if you've got two choices. If you follow the conventional compositional rules, you'll have just a really wide shot that if you're going to try to get the bird and the Spanish moss, you're going to have a really wide shot that loses impact. if you're going to follow the conventional rules and crop it, you're going to lose a big part of the shot, which is that stringing that trail of Spanish moss behind it. So this is, I think, on the picture of the bear we were talking about earlier, this is a good example where the compositional rules are okay to break at this point, just because it's it losing area for the bird to fly into doesn't break the picture, because we still got all that string of Spanish moss there behind it that really kind of makes up for that part of it. Did any of that rambling make sense?
Certainly did.
You don't sound convinced, but I'll I'll take your word for it.
No, it did. It did.
But nice job on that picture. That's cool.
That is really neat. Man.
Dan got it right on what the and Sue got it right too on what the owl says. They just chimed in there.
Yeah.
Who cooks for you? That's what they say when they're calling. Yeah. I like this shot. Of all the pictures I've ever seen of robins, I may like this one the best. Because most of the time robins are just being robins and sitting there on a stick or sitting on the ground. And I really like this one. Gives a little bit of action element to it.
Yeah, it's really getting in there.
Yep.
Tack sharp, nicely framed. Well done.
This is cool. I can't tell. It looks like some kind of fish that eagle has it's eating on. Like the fact that it's on that little island there. That's a neat shot.
Yeah, that is neat.
And the snow's kind of an added bonus, so bonus points for that. Well composed. Mindful of the separation between the bird and the this is where subtleness takes in place. If you'd had a look, this where you got to pay attention to the backgrounds. A little bit different angle, and the bird's head gets lost in the snow back there. But whether it's intentional or on accident, either way it works. But just being mindful enough to compose that bird where it's on top of the gray water instead of on top of the white snow makes all the difference in the world on a picture like this, from being a nice picture that shows some behavior to a really special picture that shows behavior. So
yeah, that's a great thing to point out.
Yeah. Man, I've never seen one of those great gray owls. They're so cool looking.
I haven't either.
That one's looking down his nose at us like he's kind of bowing up looking for a fight. Beautiful birds, though. This is a nice composition as well.
You gave me that same look this morning when we logged on.
I'm looking. I'm starting to sound like a broken record on these pictures, but no, that one's nice as well.
Yeah, I do like this.
Okay, before I talk about that one, let me look at something real quick, because we're going on our second hour of photo critiques. Okay, we like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 left. This is an example too. I think you're talking earlier on the bear where that tension works well. I think the bird looking over its shoulder works on this one, even though it doesn't have a lot of room over on the right side of it. The thing, as I think about this picture, here's what I would have done. It's a beautiful shot, number one. I mean, the colors are breathtaking. The scenery there is just unbelievable. And the fact you caught that little sparrow on it, on the top of that lupine, works as well. What I would probably do in this situation, and you might have done it, I'm just speculating here, I'd have shot both compositions. I'd have shot it like that, then moved the camera, shot it, with more room on to the right, and then pick the one I like best. I think, this one works fine. I'm just talking for the sake of talking right now, but I think overall this one looks great. Just the colors are stunning. And nice job, Linda.
Colors outstanding. That bird is right in between those two lupins that are like pillars.
Yeah.
The yellow in the background can't be discounted as to like how much that adds to it.
No, it does. Yeah, it's one of those pictures where all the parts of it really make up the sum of the entire image. Nice job. These are, I'm guessing, harbor seals. Those are cool little animals.
Yeah, they are. That guy. That little one there is very, very cute.
I know. I like the look on his face.
Yeah.
Looks like I've got a couple more in there too, but those aren't necessarily distracting to me. I just say it just to point it out. But I think it was nice to be intentional to frame it where you don't have the face isn't there's some separation between the face and the background is what I'm trying to say. And then she calls this picture Snickering Seal. I believe that. This is a nice picture of a snowy owl. I just wonder. I don't know if it improves it. Does that make it any better? What do you think?
I'm not sure.
I'm not either. I'm just being kind of playing around with it, being picky. No, it's nice. I mean, it's one of those things that the exposure is dead on. These are again, sometimes you don't think this way, but those are hard exposures to get. But I think overall, I'll just hit auto. I didn't mean to hit that. I think overall, I don't know. I think I like it both ways, either a tighter crop or no crop at all, like it was presented. I can live with it either way, but nice job.
Yeah, I think I could either.
This is where I don't know. This is a shot. As far as the shot's concerned, and the subject matter, and the exposure, and the composition, it's beautiful. And this is, I think, where I don't know if it's served as well being in black and white. I mean, I don't know that that's my favorite treatment for this shot. And the reason why is because I think in black and white, I'd like to see what it looks like in color to compare, really. But I think my first impression in black and white, I think the background becomes a little bit busy on it when you look at it that way. I'm looking at the metadata. It doesn't have a complete set of metadata on it, so it's hard to see. Dan says the background was tough on this, and the color version was a bit distracting. Yeah, I was looking at the metadata, Dan, to see what f-stop you shot at, and that maybe on next time if I don't know what it was. So if it was possible to shoot it more at a wide open aperture, that may have helped on the background a little bit. But that's just me being picky on that one. What do you think, Kenton?
Yeah, I don't know what kind of owl that is, but I love the walrus-looking mustache. I agree. I don't know that the black and white is the best solution, but I don't know. It's tough to say.
Yeah.
It's an interesting looking owl, though.
It is. It's shot at f6.3.
Okay.
Now, see, that's a good contrast on that. See, you can't always control it, but when you can, I certainly try. But there's as good a background as you want to have on a wildlife shot.
Yeah,
I think
I like
just
that.
nice and soft, and there's some color gradation there where it's not just monotonous, but it's overall it's just a nice shot, and nice job on the composition where the bird's looking back into the frame. That's a good job too, and it's plenty sharp. Yeah, I mean that shot's nice. If it's Dan, if you're the one finding all the snowy owls, I need to go with you to find some of those guys. Those are pretty incredible looking. Oops. And this is the last one right here.
Oh, man.
I'm going to say a couple of things about this one. First of all, one, I really like, even though this isn't wildlife per se, that's okay. I really like whenever you can shoot a picture of an animal with something aside from a telephoto lens, I'm a fan of it. It's not always possible, but I'm always trying to think of ways that I can shoot animals with a wide angle lens. And the metadata is not in this one, so I don't know what lens this was shot with. I'm guessing 35 millimeter, 50 millimeter, something like that is what it looks like this was shot with. I don't know that for sure. And so nice job on that, because this creates kind of an intimate feeling where you're close to the animal, but you're seeing enough of the landscape around it to know where the animal lives. And I think bonus points for the dramatic sky in the background too. The only thing I'm going to be a little picky about is this rock right back in there. And I think with a little bit of doing that, just using the little, and I'll just do it right there. You see what I did there, Kenton?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. That
just took
the distraction.
that rock out of it. That's my only thing there. And you could, I hit auto there. It makes the sky a little more dramatic and makes the colors pop some. And this isn't a critique at all. I'm just really trying to pick through this and be a little bit picky, but there's a pole back there too. Just a couple little things to clean the image up, and it's subtle, and it's nothing. It's not. Whoever took this picture, it's not. I mean, for the record, I like the picture. I like everything about it. But whether it's this picture or any of the other ones we've looked at today, or any other ones we look at in the future, a lot of times it's just the subtle things that take it from being an okay shot to something that really memorable and stands out. And to me, those minor things were getting rid of the rock and then getting rid of that. It looked like a pole or it looked like a highline pole in the background. Just getting rid of those to me makes a night and day difference on the way the shot looks.
Yeah, those were definitely needed, especially that. I didn't even notice that second thing that you took out at first, but definitely something you want out of there.
Well, here is what it looked like in the beginning.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
You see?
Yep, definitely.
And I did three things. I did this, use the spot removal tool on the rock and on that, whatever that pole is back there. And then I just hit the auto settings on the just the exposure. And then once you do that, that's what it takes you to.
Yeah.
Just cleans it up a little bit,
Greens pop a little bit more.
Yeah. Just cleans it up. And it's not a lot. I mean, if anyone's ever been on a trip with me before and we have some time to sit down and kind of do some post-processing work, you'll know pretty quick that, number one, I don't consider myself a great post-processor. I know it and I can do it pretty good. Number two, I don't like to spend a whole lot of time on post-processing because there's a point you get to where perfection becomes the enemy of the good. You can keep working on pictures and working on them and working on them and working on them, but you're not really making incremental changes. I mean, at some point you get to where they're good enough, and good enough ought to be good enough. And I think that's an illustration of what I was trying to show there is just 3 seconds worth of changes makes a big difference in the way the image looks. But it's just understanding the tools you have at your disposal, especially if you're a Lightroom user, and just being religious about doing those things over and over and over again. And so, let me double check. Yep, that's the last picture in the set. We are 2 hours and 7 minutes into this baby.
Ooh.
So, did we miss any questions at all from anybody?
Yeah, I don't think we did.
If you're still with us, which a lot of you guys are, just feel free to pop in any questions if you have any questions in the end here before we go. And I noticed a couple of comments by Dolly. I'm not going to repeat the comment, but it's a nice comment. But thank you for saying what you said about us, Dolly. I know I speak for Kenton and the rest of us at BCJ that when I say that we love what we do and we love our guests and we try our best to offer you guys a good experience, whether you're in the field with us or on one of these webinars with us. So whenever we get compliments like that, I know I really appreciate it. And Chris just popped in and said, great job, learned a lot. Thanks for all your insight. I know it's really hard to comment on all the photos. It's really not Chris. Chris was on a Everglades trip with me last time, and you want to talk about a top-notch guest. Chris was among the best. It was good to spend time in the field with him and get to know him and hopefully get to see him again soon.
Yeah, I think we got all the questions that were posed in the Q&A section there.
Well, good. If just so everybody knows, and I didn't mention this in the first like I usually do, but if I missed if you uploaded any pictures past around 11 a.m. Texas time, I've got to get all these things downloaded and this thing prepared. So if I missed any shots that you meant to include in this mix, just feel free to email them to me. Russell@russellgraves.com. I will spend a little time. I'll spend a little time with you on going through your pictures, or if you have any other comments or questions about what we talked about today, feel free to send me an email. I'm good at responding to emails. Sometimes it may take me a day or two, but I respond to all of them nonetheless. And Terry's there. Terry was there with us on our trip to to the Everglades, and that was a really fun trip. If you ever get a chance to do that trip, Kenton, you should take advantage of it because Everglades are a pretty special place.
Yeah, you guys get outstanding stuff down there. How many
Yep.
species did you photograph this last time? I
So
think you were counting.
on this last trip, and Chris and Terry are going to hear this for the first time on this last trip. I actually discovered a species I photographed that I didn't write down, and so we hit 83 different species that we photographed.
Wow.
And the rules are pretty simple when we do that trip. If you can take a reasonably good picture of it, doesn't have to be a great picture of it, but just has to be an identifiable picture of the species, we'll count it. So in other words, if we see something a mile away, we don't count that stuff. But if we can take a reasonably identifying picture of it, then we'll count it as one. And so with the ultimate goal is taking that yearbook shot of all of them. And a lot of them, I would say the majority of them, we do get that yearbook shot. But there's a few of them that we just have to photograph in a tree from a little distance away. We don't get quite as close to as we'd like, but yeah, 80, what I say, 82, 83, something like that. And that's an all-time record. That's the most species we've ever seen. So it was a great trip.
Wow. Yeah, nice.
Linda asked, where are the polar bear trips located? They're on Barter Island in the far north Alaska. Kaktovik is the name of the town, Linda, that we launch out of. And they're not from tundra buggies. They're from little skiffs, boats that we tool around in and photograph the bears. To answer that question.
Well, Russell, I appreciate you having me with you today. It's fun hanging out, and I know I learned some things. Hope everyone else did as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, good seeing you too, Kenton. We don't get together nearly enough, but it was good seeing you when I ran into you in Montana.
Yep,
and,
that's the lifestyle, isn't it?
It
high five in airport terminals.
And with this Zoom thing and Big Marker and all these other tools we use, it's kind of weird that some of the people at BCJ I've never met in person, but you feel like you know them because you see their face all the time on these talks. So,
yep.
But I appreciate everyone coming in and listening. Ellen, thank you for the comment. And yeah, like I said, if anybody has any follow-up questions or comments, if we missed it today, feel free to email me, russell@russellgraves.com. And I will see you again in a couple of weeks on a Everglades slideshow kind of wrap-up presentation I'm going to do. And I guess we'll see you again soon, Kenton.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be fun. I mean, with all those species you got.
Yep. Take care, everybody.
Take care, everyone.